All right, today we're going to talk about sleep and sleep disorders. This will be a relatively brief discussion. We'll talk first about the necessity of sleep, how we measure sleep a little bit, talk about the stages of sleep, talk about our REM sleep and dreaming, a little bit about dreams, and then finally finish up with sleep disorders. Sleep is certainly something that is physically and mentally necessary for all of us. Sleep itself is an altered state of consciousness, certainly forms of experience that are depart from the normal subjective experience of the world and mind. So whenever we talk about an altered state of consciousness, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about our normal everyday experience. We're talking about some sort of alteration of that consciousness. And that's what sleep really is an altered state of consciousness. Sleep's an important part of our circadian rhythm, which is our cycle of bodily rhythm that occurs over a 24-hour period. It's our period of sleeping and wakefulness. A variety of things govern the sleep-wake cycle. One of them, of course, is light cycles. The other thing that has significant 24-hour effects are levels of the steroid hormone cortisol. Both of these have important implications for our sleeping and wakefulness. The hypothalamus is a tiny section of the brain that influences the glandular system that actually influences our circadian rhythm. It's sort of the master of this whole process and certainly the master of the endocrine system. And it's an important part of how all this process works. To give you a little bit more lingo about why we know that sleep is necessary, people who are sleep deprived oftentimes will end up having what are called microsleeps. These are brief side steps into sleep lasting only a few seconds. These are a common cause of accidents while driving. People who are sleep deprived will nod off very briefly and have no idea that they've done so. We talk about sleep deprivation as being any significant loss of sleep. This results in a variety of problems, including concentration and irritability. Sleep is incredibly important for our well-being, and so sleeping well, having the right kind of sleep, is particularly important. We know that car accidents and cardiac arrest increase in the days following the spring time change. This is when we lose an hour and we get that massive disruption in sleep, so everyone's lost an hour and everyone's sleep deprived. And as a result, that following day, that following Monday, there is a significant increase in car accidents and cardiac arrests. We also know that sleep deprivation can result in muscle loss, weight gain, and increased cortisol. All of these are tied together. Cortisol is, of course, their primary stress hormone, and when we are sleep deprived, those levels increase. That causes us to store more of our calories as fat and to actually reduce our muscle mass. So sleep's a really important part of our overall well-being. Why do we need sleep? Well, there are a couple of things that we think are happening during sleep. We think it's adaptive. That is, this is a theory of sleep proposing that animals and humans evolved sleep patterns to avoid predators by sleeping when predators are most active. That's why we tend to be active by day and not at night, whereas some predators are active at night and not during the day. Some are diurnal or both times of day. So it could be that we sleep at night because that's when we were adapted to do so. Why do we sleep? Well, we believe it's part of our restorative processes. This is a theory of sleep proposing that sleep is necessary to the physical health of the body and serves to replenish chemicals and repair cellular damage. Very recent evidence has indicated that one of the things that's happening during sleep in the brain is essentially getting flushed. There is a change in the circulation of fluid in the brain while you're sleeping that appears to be associated with clearing out the waste products of cellular processes. One of the things cells digest and they end up with various waste processes, and sleep deprivation can actually be associated with buildup of these products and can be associated with things like development of beta amyloid plaque, which is associated with Alzheimer's disease. Finally, your brain is busy consolidating your experiences into permanently stored memories while you sleep. There's a variety of evidence that indicates that sleep is necessary for the formation of permanent memories. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute when we talk about dreaming. To give you an idea of how we measure sleep, we often use certain sleep scales. So this is what's called the Epworth sleepiness scale. Some of you may have actually completed the scale at a doctor's office or a dentist's office. So you just rate these items from a scale of 0 to 3. Would you never doze, slight chance of dozing, moderate chance, or a high chance, sitting and talking to someone, sitting and active in a public place, sitting quietly after lunch, sitting and reading, watching television, lying down to rest, in a car while stopped in traffic, or as a passenger in a car. And people who have higher levels on the scale are usually sleep deprived. There are several different stages of sleep. We'll take a look at the brain activity during these stages of sleep, but essentially we break down sleep into REM and non-REM sleep. REM is rapid eye movement sleep. This is a stage of sleep in which the eyes move rapidly under the eyelids and the person is typically experiencing a dream. If you are awoken, during REM sleep, this is when you typically remember dreams. So if you're somebody who doesn't remember your dreams, oftentimes that's because you have actually slept well throughout the night. Non-REM sleep are the stages of sleep that do not include REM sleep. It's relatively straightforward. There are a variety of different stages of REM sleep, and we'll take a look at what those look like here in a moment. So a typical 8-hour sleep cycle looks something like this, where you start out awake, then you go down into stage 1 sleep, which is the sort of shallowest level of sleep. Average there is about 10 minutes, and then you move into stage 2, which is as long as 20 minutes, and then stage 3 for about 40 minutes the first time, and then after that stage 3 is shorter as you go up and down through the cycles. Throughout the night you'll go down through these stages and then back up, and then down through these stages and back up. Stage 4 is the deepest level of sleep. This can be as long as 30 or 40 minutes. This is when your brain waves have slowed way down. That's what this chart is showing, is actual brainwave activity. So your brain's slowed way down. This is when you're hardest awake because you're in your deepest levels of sleep. You then rapidly come back out of stage 4 and into REM, which is rapid eye movement sleep. And so then you sort of cycle in and out of these stages throughout the night. You go into stages all the way through to stage 4, maybe the first couple of cycles through the night, and then you'll cycle sort of in and out of stages 2 and 3, or 1, 2, or 3 in REM sleep. So it looks something like this. These are your brain waves, where you have beta waves. We call an awake, alert stage. Then as you get more relaxed, you get more alpha waves, which is a hypnagogic state. And then the stages of non-sleep include stage 1 sleep, which includes theta waves, stage 2 sleep, where you get these spindles or bursts of activities. Then you get stage 3 sleep, stage 4 sleep, where your brainwave patterns start to become deeper and more slow. And then REM stage, which looks an awful lot sometimes like the sort of awake but relaxed stage, where your brain is particularly active while you're processing information into memory. So over an 8-hour period, you'll go down, into stage 4 sleep, probably maybe twice. And you go into stage 2 and maybe stage 3 a couple more times, but primarily you'll kind of be right in there between 1 REM sleep, 1 and 2, and back up to REM sleep. REM sleep is actually what we call paradoxical sleep, because there is a high level of brain activity. If you're awakened during REM sleep, you'll almost always report a dream. So oftentimes, people who do sleep research will wake you up when you reach REM to see what you were dreaming about. One of the things that can happen is you can experience what's called REM rebound. This is increased amounts of REM sleep after being deprived of REM sleep on earlier nights. Oftentimes this can happen if you were intoxicated on alcohol or if you use some sort of sleep aid. Oftentimes those will prevent you from reaching REM sleep. So as a result, when you go to sleep the next time, you fall asleep and start to dream right away. If that's happening, then you are definitely sleep deprived. Nightmares are, of course, bad dreams that occur during REM sleep. There's always a lot of questions about what dreams mean. There are some sort of historical views of dreams. Certainly Freud and his colleagues thought that there were manifest content and latent content in dreams. The manifest content is a dream's apparent topic or superficial meaning. Latent content then is a dream's true underlying meaning. And according to this view, dreams may represent wishes, suppressed thoughts, or random activity. More likely is that dreams are produced when the brain attempts to make sense of activations that occur randomly during sleep. This is what we call the activation synthesis model. Since we know that REM sleep is critical for memory formation, one of the things we think is happening is that while you are sleeping, or while you're in REM sleep, you're in this altered conscious state, and you start catching bits and pieces of brain activity, and as a result your consciousness tries to make sense of that, and that's where dreams come from. One problem many people face are what we call sleep disorders. There are a variety of these. These include insomnia, which is just simply a difficulty in falling asleep or staying asleep. Sleep apnea, this is where a person stops breathing for brief periods of time while asleep. This can be very dangerous. This can also result in elevated levels of cortisol or stress hormones, and also weight gain, and are associated with cardiac risk. Somnambulism, which is sleepwalking, it's just where people become ambulatory when the person rises and walks around during sleep. Narcolepsy occurs when we have sudden sleep attacks that occur in the middle of waking activities. Sleep paralysis is the experience of waking up unable to move. We're actually paralyzed while we're asleep. Then when we wake up, that usually wears off. Sometimes there's a little overlap there. And then finally, night terrors are abrupt awakenings with panics and intense emotional arousal. I want to show you quickly what narcolepsy looks like by showing you Rusty the narcoleptic dog. Maybe. Oh, Rusty doesn't want to play. Hold one sec. So to give you a quick review of that, these are our common sleep disorders: somnambulism, night terrors. We also have restless leg syndrome, which is an uncomfortable sensation in legs causing movement and loss of sleep. You can also get nocturnal leg cramps, hypersomnia, which is excessive daytime sleepiness. There are also circadian rhythm disorders, which are disturbances of the sleep-wake cycle, such as jet lag and shift work. And then finally, urinalysis, which is urinating while asleep in bed. It's been a brief introduction to sleep and sleep disorders.